How are we doing, folks? So moving on now, all the mechanical bits are done in our dry build, so now we're just left with this wiring diagram. We've got to design and see where we're going to lay the stuff out. But first of all, I just want to see what bits I am going to use and what bits I need to order, because we said we're going to make this as simple as possible, minimum amount of connections, minimum amount of cable runs, because we want it to be reliable. So I've just thrown a load of junk on the table on the desk here. So what are we and what aren't we using? So this is going to go. We don't need the Zener diode, and the plate rectifier we don't need. So those two are gone, and they're going to be replaced by the let's let me get a box for these and just jump them as we go. So those two are going. So I said I'd found a horn, and normally it's a lot lighter. This is off a Yam. I fitted these before. That's stainless, and put a bit of paint on it, give it a quick tidy up and a spray. Very light, and yeah, I like them. So that one, I think is an Indian one. Whoever LINL1 is, not a clue. Anyway, that's going as well, and we're going to keep that one. This was the coil that was fitted to the bike. I mean, it's off a car, isn't it? You know, and you know, be drawing a lot of amps, that as well. Well, if you had, well, originally we had the points. Every time the points are closed, obviously you're dead short across the primary windings, so there's no way I'm using that. So I have got a few coils. This is what I normally go for. These are I think these are Honda ones, or Yamaha they are, but because I've got a couple of these small profile coils, I'm going to use one of these. So this is the one that we used to do the test run the engine the other day. So I've metered them both. They're both good. This one's got a slightly higher ohms resistance on the secondary winding, so it's probably got a bit more of an ump to it. PVL, I think they make electronic ignition, so that is probably more compatible than this Lucas one, so we'll be using that. Okay, so this is the original ignition switch. I'll be keeping that, won't I? The Playboy Club Bunny's changing room. But it's only a single position switch, on or off, and I need a 1 ignition on and a 2 ignition on and feed for the lights. So unfortunately, even though that's probably a good switch, I'll be keeping the key ring, but I won't be using the ignition switch. We're going to be using a 2 position, or 3 positions but 2 ways. So this is the lighting switch, which is normally in the top of the headlight, on the headlight cowl somewhere, and that probably will fit in the space, even though it's a small headlight, but I just don't want it there. I don't like them. It's not going to have, even though there's a side light in this, I'm not having any side lights obviously apart from the back, but there'll be no front side lights, so it'll be ignition on, and the next position will just be lights. so you'll have main beam or dip, so I won't be using that, so that can go. So I normally fit, I don't like these in particular. This could be an original one, it's got a few chunks knocked out of it, but the better quality than the Chinese copy ones. But I like to fit these Y-Pack, or they're not Y-Pack anymore obviously, Y-Pack probably doesn't exist. So this will fit on the left hand side of the handlebars, and they're normally a Y-Pack Ducon, which means due to, so there'd be a dip and a main and a horn push. But you can get the Tricon copy Y-Pack, which has this extra button on it which gives you an engine kill. So I mean, I rather like them, so that we will be using, so that one we won't be using, so that's gone. So few oh yeah, obviously we're keeping that. That's going to replace our plate rectifier and our Zener diode. That's going to stay. Obviously we need that. That's the CDI unit for the vape electronic ignition. I normally throw one of these in somewhere, you know, maybe have this fly lead coming out under the seat, tucked in under the seat somewhere, but this is just a buck converter, so it's 12 or 24 volt 12 or 24 volts DC input, and it gives you 5 volts 3 amps USB female or whatever it is, so you can charge your phone up or whatever while you're riding. So I normally throw one of those in somewhere because they are handy to have that. And if you're under the seat facing downwards, it's not going to get wet. Battery. So this is what I normally go for. It's a lithium iron phosphate or LiFePO4 battery. Works in any orientation, weighs absolutely nothing, and it's actually good enough as a cranking battery, this one. But obviously we haven't got a starter motor on it, but they're just so light. And originally I was paying, I think, about 50 quid for these, then they were 49 quid. So I've had a few of them. You can get these now for 36 quid on Amazon, and as long as you don't charge over 15 volts, so when you've built the bike up and you've obviously got one of these fitted, you shouldn't be any more than 14.7, 14.3 to 14.7, so it's inside the threshold for a LiFePO battery. So they are superb, those things. And if you're leaving the bike over winter, you don't need to bother. They just seem to stay alive. They're good. You don't need to have to keep trickle charging them. You get a battery power status indicator, and I wouldn't advise you to do it, but if you dead short the battery, there's a device inside that'll measure the massive current draw and force it to go open circuit, and until it sees an open circuit on these two, it won't close back. So you know, they have got like a short protection, and they are good. Couple of inline fuses. I don't know what to go for. If I'm going to use this type, then I'd have to panel mount them somehow, which I probably won't do, so maybe no. So this is probably a good setup. A couple of these. So we're going to have two lots of fuses, or two fuses. One will be powering the CDI and through the charging, and the other one will be for the lights and the horn and the brake light. So we'll probably go for, I've only got one, I'll have to order another one of them, or a couple more. So they're going to be the fuses. So that stays. And that is a bit of wiring harness for this thing, I think, because we did run it, didn't we? Yeah, that was that. Yeah, so we got a bit of wiring to start off with, and obviously we got a bit of wiring to go with our CDI unit, so a lot of it's already done, so we could just quickly rough a couple of things out. So if we just did the charging circuit first, because obviously there's nothing in that now, is there? We've only got 4 wires. So we've got our magnet, the rotor, we've got a couple of coils, and obviously we'll go just, so we've got an output from the rotor or the alternator, and they will go to these 2 yellow wires either way round, because then obviously AC is not polarized. So we just draw that thing something like that, so you'd have output that way, output that way, that way, and that way. So that would be AC, that would be AC. So we can take one to there, take one to there, and then there's our, I'll just put a capacitor or something in there. It's obviously a lot more junk inside there. And that will go back, let's have a battery. There's our Life PO4 battery. A couple of terminals. We'll have that as negative. So we can bring this up to there, and this one out, and we'll put a fuse in there. Probably don't need to, but this, there we go. So that is the charging circuit done. So we should really put this thing in, shouldn't we? So we've got our another rotor, and we know that because we measured it, there's 2 inductors on it, and they are wired in series, and they go back directly back to the, so let's just put the little box here. So they just went like that. So that's that, isn't it? So we need an ignition coil. So we've got a positive, and we've got a negative. So positive and negative, and just a ground, isn't it? So I'll just draw the ground here, and then that just goes the other 2. There's the phone. So let me catch this, 1 second. Okay, where were we? Okay, so we were feeding the coil from the CDI unit. So there is just just a positive and a negative straight to it. And that is the electronic ignition. We can put a HT lead and can we draw a spark plug? Maybe. Non-electrode. Okay, but we need to feed that, don't we now? So if that's better. So we said we're going to have another fuse feed. I think we need the ignition switch, obviously, don't we? So let's put the ignition switch here. So it's going to be a 3-position ignition switch. So position number 1 will be the power feed in via another inline fuse. Position number 2 will be ignition only, and what I think we'll do is I like to fit a relay. It may not be this one. You can actually get these with a little moulded piece on, so you can bolt them on, but you need to get a standard automotive relay, but it has to have that extra, this terminal here, and I think I've not got my glasses on. Yeah, 87A. So we can just quickly draw the logic of this, because we're going to use this as the kill switch. So feed out number 2 is going to go to the relay. So the relay is something like, so obviously a normally open and a normally closed contacts. I can't see without my glass. I think the feed in is number 30, and I think the normally closed is 87A. Don't quote me on that, have a look yourself. That one's 87, we don't need it, but obviously we need our solenoid, or the little coil, the pull coil, and that'll be, I think, 85 and 86. So if we bring from our first switch position here down to number 30 on that relay, which is, put your glasses on, boy, 30, which is correct, then in its unenergized state, then it's going to feed out from here, and we can bring this connection maybe to the coil, because there'll be a few easy to put an extra connection on there, isn't it? So if we bring that to there, that'll feed the coil but also give our positive feed into the CDI unit to power that. Shouldn't have put that earth there, but what we can do with this is, so this would be 86, I'm going to say the positive side. So what we'll do is we'll bring the link out here, and out there. So I've put a positive feed with the ignition on. I've fed through the normally closed contact, the coil and the CDI unit. I've also put a positive feed on here. So I'll just get rid of the earth for the moment, because what we're going to do, we're going to cheat, and we're going to use this kill button, and when you press this, it puts a contact onto the handlebars to give a ground. So if I just draw that switch in here at the moment, so there's 3 switches on it, isn't there? So we've got a one way or the other way dip or main beam, so that would be light feed in, that would be out. May as well do the bulb. So if I do a twin filament bulb, so the common earth, so one will be the, let's call that the main beam, and that one's the dipped filament. And then when you flick it down to this one, we do that side. But what I'm interested in is we've got another 2 buttons, haven't we? We've got the horn, which again is a ground signal going back. So we've got that to ground, and another one beneath it, and that'll be the horn, won't it? And that will give an onward ground signal. So we'll call the top one the kill button and the bottom one the horn push. So the kill button is going to come to there, isn't it? Kill. So let's go there, 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 and there. So that relay in its de-energized state will feed when the ignition's on straight through, and they're normally close contact, and it'll power the coil and the CDI unit, and it will also power one side with a, because obviously this is unidirect, you know, bi-directional, you can connect that any way up. It's just an induction coil, isn't it? So, but there's no earth, so it's not going to do anything. But the second I press on that kill switch and send the ground signal, it'll energize that relay, it'll break that connection, and you'll lose power to the CDI and the coil. I mean, not that I would want to do it, but you could maybe just bring that to the negative side of the coil, and you'd just be putting the coil would be permanently ground, because obviously this thing is switching this on and off, isn't it? The pulses from here through the capacitors, capacitive discharge. But I'm not sure whether that's the right thing to do. Is it doing damage to that unit? I don't know. So I'd rather always do it that way. So that's that little relay. So all we're left with now is the lighting circuit, which and the horn and the brake light in it. So the horn we're going to permanently feed. So we've got the horn down here, put the horn here. And the horn needs to be permanently fed. So this time I'm going to put a wire down the spine. So that's going to be one side of the horn. On the other side of the horn we'll pick up a live feed. Gonna need 2 live feeds now, aren't I? I need a live feed, no lights, so I'm going to have to run a wire down the spine for that. So that gives me the horn, and now, and also the brake light, and the brake light also is on the handlebars, isn't it? So let's put that in there. Yeah, I can feed that as well, can't I? So that's the brake light switch, which is built into the front brake cable. That's why it's at the front. Let's call this zone 1 and this is zone 2. So that's going to go back, and let's do our back light. So again, we've got 2 filaments in the back light. We obviously have a ground, and then one side is the brake filament, which will be that one. Yeah. And then we've got to get the side lights, which we haven't done yet. So that's going to be from this terminal number 3. Let's bring it over this one. And it's got to go to there, hasn't it? So let's just give it a feed from the back first. So that's going to go to the side light, rear side light. So that's S for side, B for brake. And this now will continue. Let's bring this. So this is this bit here. So that's going to go up, up to there. So that will be it. So we're only going to have 4 cores running down the round the headstock, you know, when the handlebars turn. So I think that's the best way to do it. So keep the ignition switch instead of using the single pole. So now I'm going to be a two positions, well 3 positions off, ignition on, and ignition on, and lights on in the 2nd position. So we've fused the lights and the horn, and we've fused the regulator rectifier, and that single fuse feeds everything. So we could put another fuse in there. I don't think I will do. I want to keep it simple. This is going to be LED on this end, front end. So most of the connections are going to be made in here, and obviously that lighting switch, that'll feed into the headlight. So I think that would actually do it. So all I've got to do now is, I have got some 1mm and 1.5mm squared. I probably don't even need 1.5 because all these are going to be LED. I measured this thing, and this is like 3.9 or 4.1 ohms on the primary. So even when it's got a closed signal, you know, that's only going to be like 3 amps, isn't it? The greatest draw that you're never going to leave your finger pressing it will be the horn, which you know, I'm not worried about that. So that's going to work. So let me draw this up. So we did say that, yeah, all of that would be zone 1, and even the horn is on the forks, isn't it? the brake light switch is in the front brake cable, which is on the bars and the forks. Obviously the headlight, and we've got our copy Y-Pack Tricon, so that will be zone 2. So something like that. So I've got to order a few more bits, obviously my switch, a couple of more fuses, one of them with a little bracket with a hole on, make it easier to fit. And there's other things we can do from here now. I mean, I've got a speedo on there, so I could pull this feed here, couldn't I, and have a instrument bulb, if you like. And that would be the speedo bulb. And what else? I mean, things like I could even have a main beam indicator, but I'd have to drill into the headlight, which I don't really want to do. And I was also thinking, now I've put the exhaust pipe at high level, I know there's no provision on this engine for an oil pressure switch, but there is a gallery underneath with a plug in it where the exhaust pipe runs under the engine, and that gallery with the plug in does go into the main oil feed gallery. And if I could get an oil pressure switch to fit in there, I probably could put an oil pressure switch in there. It'd just be another cable run, wouldn't it? Because I've got my power feed to the front, so it's going to work. So that'll do for today. So I'm going to order a few bits and mount a few bits and pieces and throw a few cables in. And when I'm going to put this video out now, and when I've got half of the wiring done physically on the bike, we'll do like another part to it, and when the wiring is finished and we can prove it by power and everything, we'll do the final one. So the wiring is going to be 3 short videos. So that's enough for today. It's time for a pint, and we'll catch you on the next one.